Welcome back to another episode of the Randy Wilson Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Wilson. This is Virginia's podcast for the culture and from the culture. And today we are excited to have Kat Anthony with us, who is the executive director of the Virginia Capital Trail Foundation. Hey, Kat, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day outside. It was a beautiful weekend. The trail was really busy, and I'm so grateful to be here with you.
We are excited to have you as well. And for those of you who are tuning in and are new to the show, you can find the show everywhere podcasts are played. I encourage you to go over to YouTube though if you're listening and when you're out of your car, because then you can see Kat. We will be airing this on YouTube as well. You can also go to randywilsonpodcast.com to learn more. Make sure you subscribe to the show, hit the notification bell so you can stay in tune with what we got going on. Kat, when your folks reached out to me to talk about doing this podcast, um, it was one that I was really interested to have because I spend as much time on the Capitol Trail as anybody who knows me, put it that way. I'm
Oh,
sure
wow.
there's people out there, and I'm sure there are more than me that, not having to work as much, but I'm definitely out there or on my bike 100 miles a week. So
That's awesome. That's
I'm
awesome.
super excited to talk to you and learn more about your part in this and what's to come. But those are for those who may not be familiar with the Capitol Trail. If you could, Kat, kind of just give folks a little bit of background on it so they can become familiar with what we feel is like a strong gym here in Virginia.
Yeah, so I'm so glad that you use the trail often, and a lot of folks do. And so the Virginia Capitol Trail is a 51.7-mile trail. It goes from the floodwall doors in Richmond all the way to the Jamestown settlement. And so our trail is fully off the road, it's paved, and it goes through Richmond, Henrico, Charles City County, and James City County, ends at the settlement. And people love it. So people bike, run, walk, skip on the trail. And we've got folks who use it, who do, a couple miles or go for a walk to folks who do 100, 200, hundreds of miles or thousands of miles on it every year. It was fully built about 10 years ago. And if you remember, if you were in Richmond during the 2015 bike event that happened, it was the ribbon cutting happened then. And people love it. And it's the second most visited attraction in the Richmond area. And I mean, it's such a great way to be active and outdoors in the area. So, highly recommend people come and check it out.
I have met people on the trail from all over the world. I mean, I have met people on the trail that have been doing a cross country ride, and um, that was mapped in to be part of their trail from getting from here to Tidewater. Um, I've broken down on the trail many times and had so many great people be willing to just it's very friendly. It's very much a community and a neighborhood trail to, you know, I'm sorry that I go out there frequently without tubes, but there's always someone out there to help me out.
Well, we've got our trail ambassadors out there who
Yeah,
often are helping people with tubes and different things. And so it really does bring communities together.
it does.
And people are very friendly and very welcoming out on the trail, which is really nice.
Yeah. I've been prepping for this cap to cap that's coming up. What can you share with us about that? This
Yeah, great.
what annual cap to cap is this?
This is our big 20th anniversary Cap to Cap bike ride. So this year it's on May 9th and 10th. And so we've got two party zones. So Friday we are out of Chickahominy Riverfront Park. And so that's where there's going to be food and vendors. And then Saturday it's at Dory Park. And so we have five rest stops along the Capitol Trail. We've got bike mechanics. People come out, and it's a really great weekend for people who want it to be their like first century or first 50 because we've got it. It's a fully supported event, and so people come out, they get a beer, a barbecue, and it's a great community event to support the Capitol Trail. And people love it. So I highly recommend people check it out. People can go to our website, virginiacapitaltrail.org, to learn more about it. But we've been doing it for 20 years, and we've got a great group of folks who help for that event. It takes a lot of volunteers, and We're a very small organization to put this on. So we're expecting around probably around 1,500 riders. It's a beautiful weekend. We could see more.
I'm one of those folks, Kat, that waits to the week of to pay just because of monitoring the weather.
Yeah,
Well, I'll
yeah.
be if I do, I will be there, but will I still? If the shirt's gonna be gone?
I hope not.
Yeah,
We've been able last year we weren't able to do as many shirts because like I think it was such a beautiful weekend that people were so last minute. But we should have shirts for everyone.
I missed it
So
last year
we
because I was so late, but I was there.
yeah, you should have a shirt. We're working with the shirt vendor who we should be able to order even more shirts the week of. So
Great, great.
but
Well,
go on and register so you can get that coveted shirt. So
I will. I will. Is it fair to assume that you are a cyclist?
I do like biking a lot. Yes, I am a cyclist. So it's funny though. I have a 2.5-year-old and a 7-month old, so I bike a little less than I used to.
Mhm.
But I like commuting. I like biking around the city. That's my favorite type of biking. I live in Northside, and I'm able to bike around through that. And so, but I have done a little less these past few months, and I'm hoping to get a little bit more on my bike in the coming months.
Let me ask you, what kind of bike do you ride?
Oh, see, I'm not a bike geek. Like I don't really,
Okay.
I don't, it's funny. People are like, check out this bike. And I'm like, that's cool. And so, so I have more like a commuter, I have a couple bikes, but, mine are like used bikes that I either found on Facebook Marketplace or commuter bikes. And so,
Got it.
that and my husband's the same way. We just like having kind of like our cars are like we just like having a bike that we could beat around and use it and if it does ever get stolen because I've had bikes get stolen, I am heartbroken but less heartbroken if that makes sense.
Understood. Understood. Kat, what's been some of your most rewarding moments stepping into the role of executive director?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, one of the things, well, so I've been the executive director now for gosh, 7, 8 years now. And so the first thing that I realized is that people thought of the Virginia Capital Trail or Virginia Capital Trail Foundation as a bike organization. And, one of the things that's really important to us is that we really tried to show folks that the trail is for everyone, runners, walkers, skaters. And so we even expanded our Cap to Cap bike ride. We do our Cap to Cap bike ride, but we also do a run in the fall. We also do our summer challenge as well. And so, in 2020, we had a record number of, 1.2 million trail counts on the Capitol Trail. It was probably our busiest year. We now average around 1 million. And so we really tried to open up the trail to folks. So that's been really important to us. So we've also done a lot of grassroots programs that weren't being done before. So everything from trail cleanups to trail skating we did a pop-up rest stop this past weekend. So really growing that. We've also added some amenities along the Capitol Trail, like benches and rain shelters and fix-it stations to help with the experience. So for me, it's been, that's a really rewarding experience. Whenever I'm having a bad day, I go to the trail, and that just reminds me of what I'm doing and why it's important and how everyone's just really loving the trail and enjoying it. So those have been a few things or highlights with the trail and my work. But I'm just really lucky to work at the Capitol Trail, a gem, a wonderful resource for our community that people love.
Yeah. Um, I'm very impressed with the upkeep, and I know you guys made some changes. You just kind of improved the path a little bit, hardened the roads a little bit in some areas. So I know I appreciate it. What do you think people would be surprised to learn about in your day-to-day work?
Mhm.
That people may not think comes with the territory.
Yeah. That's funny. That's a great question. So we are a very small staff team. So there's only 4 full-time staff and one part-time. And so I think people think that we're this huge
Yeah.
organization.
Wouldn't,
So
yeah.
um, so that I think that can surprise folks. We get emails or calls about a lot of different things. So everything from, of course, maintenance issues to where's the bathroom? Hey, I'm coming from Canada, and where should I stay? Or I'm flying into Richmond Airport. How do I get from the airport to the trail? So we get a lot of that, and you know, and I think that that's awesome. We get a lot of folks who ask us about tourist information. Um, and then, we get, if you check out our Instagram, Facebook, people will also say, tell us about any issues that are on the trail. But uh, I think that, nothing surprises me anymore out on the trail. We hear lots of different things like unicyclists or people from Europe coming. So lots of different folks from all over the world come visit.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be on the trail. I've seen turkeys crossing the pathway.
Yep, yep,
I've seen goats.
yep.
I think one of the most awkward experiences. One time I was going, and there was a snake
I was gonna
just
say, yep.
stretched out across the trail, and I'm sitting here trying to figure out how I'm going to adjust because there's a deer maybe like 20 yards ahead of me that's just staring and doesn't feel like it's gonna move. So
Yep.
I've definitely
We
got
get
my fair share of stories.
a lot of wildlife. We also get like email saying, there's a dead deer on the trail, and I take a picture, and I'm like, I don't know if you really need to send me a picture, but we will take care of it. And
Yeah.
so tons of wildlife is out on the trail as well. And of course, the historical sites along the trail is
Yeah,
important
yeah.
as well.
From a community, because the trail goes through so many different communities, for the most part, do you feel like the communities are supportive or do they complain any?
Yeah. So I am so lucky that I came on when the trail was built because a lot of the naysayers changed their tune from saying, I don't want this trail to, I know one board of supervisor in Charles City County called the trail the Golden Trail or the Golden Road because it brought economic development to Charles City County. And so I would say overall, folks love the trail or like the trail. If you go to Cullis Courthouse Grill on a weekend, people really love. Cullen will say that once the trail was built, his business went up, and he had to hire more staff, and he bought his property. And so I think overall, folks like the trail. I think so. Once in a while, we hear complaints of maybe a cyclist blowing through a stop sign on an intersection or something like that. And so that's where we sometimes hear complaints from maybe residents saying, they're not following the rules or things like that. And I always like to say, when you're driving, does everyone follow, the rules of the road? I feel like every time I drive, people are not following the rules of the road. And so we at the Capitol Trail Foundation, we have signs at every trailhead. We do Trail Etiquette Month in October. We have our trail ambassadors out there encouraging folks to follow the rules. So that's the only times when we can kind of hear complaints from folks is people either not following the rules or going too fast on the trail because the trail is for everyone. It's not for people going as fast as they can through busy Richmond or busy Williamsburg.
Um, does the there's a trail that's coming from Petersburg to from Ashland to Petersburg and vice
Ashland,
versa.
yeah.
Are you guys involved in that?
Yeah, so that's the Fall Line Trail. Yeah. And Sportsbackers has been the lead advocate of that trail. We are also advocates of, trying to get that trail built and fully funded. And so that trail would not have happened without the success of the Capitol Trail. I feel like most folks, there's always a few naysayers, but most folks say, yes, we want the fall line to happen because we see the success of the Capitol Trail. So we are also partners and are advocates of trying to get that trail built as well.
But once that trail is built, it won't fall under the Capitol Trail Foundation. It'll be something else.
We'll see. We'll see. I don't think they've chosen, who will kind of manage the trail once it's built.
Mhm.
And so I think that's to be determined. And so I think it's the counties along the trail who will make that decision, and we'll see. So
Are there other trails uh, in the making right now?
there's a lot of trails in Virginia. And so I'm also I'm also the president of the Virginia Trails Alliance, which is a grassroots advocacy group that advocates for trails in Virginia. So you mentioned the Fall Line, then that will connect to the Capitol Trail. There's also the Trail 757, which will expand the Capitol Trail east, and so it will go all the way to the Hampton Roads area, and then also go. You take the ferry, and you'll go down to Surrey as well, and Isle Right. So that's that trail. There's the Shenandoah Rail Trail, which is awesome. There is the Eastern Shore Trail. Of course, there's the Virginia Creeper Trail that's already built, but they just had some, Hurricane Helene came through and really devastated that area, and so they're kind of recovering. So there are, and I feel like I'm missing more trails, but there is a lot of trails in Virginia up and coming that hopefully will get built in our lifetime. And I always like to say that, my vision is, a trails that kind of intersect the entire state.
Yeah.
And one day maybe I'll be able to bike from Richmond or safely bike from
Mhm.
Richmond to the Washington Old Dominion Trail. And then that connects to the Great Allegheny Passage and just keeps on going.
Yeah.
So
I'm hoping that you don't hear my dog snoring. Do you hear my dog?
no, no,
Okay,
I
it's just
don't.
okay.
So
It's
you're
maybe
good. You're
just want to
good.
make
So
sure.
that's the remote work-life balance, you got to deal with your colleagues. So no, I don't hear
Yeah.
them.
Um, what role does the trail play in public health, tourism, and in economic development?
Yeah, yeah. So I like to say trails mean business. And so even since I've been with the Trail Foundation, so we've seen just along the trail, we've seen Cool Wheels open up, which is an e-bike shop in Verina. Indian Fields Tavern opened up, which is a great restaurant, and now they actually have a brewery. Spoken Art opened up in Williamsburg, which is like a coffee shop and tea spot. So people love that. And these folks have really made their business trail oriented. Like Spoken Art, their bathrooms are on the outside so that trail users can use them. And so that's really important to show. We did an economic impact study a few years back, and that showed that millions and millions of dollars have come through because of the Capitol Trail. Hundreds of jobs have also come because of the Capitol Trail. And if your property is closer to the trail, the value of your home or property is 3 to 4% more than outside of the trail. So that's of course taxes and all that good stuff. The trail took 10 years to get built. And so that was jobs, of course, construction jobs getting built, the trail. And then the public health, is so important to show. I really want to do a survey or a data or a plan to show like how the trail has impacted health. But I just hear the stories. I lost 100 pounds because of the Capitol Trail. I moved to an area to be near the trail, and only because I moved into my house because I wanted to be near the trail. And I had someone say they moved from Denver, they moved to Richmond because they wanted to be near the Capitol Trail.
Wow.
So that's economic development, and folks are always using the trail for different things, either for recreation, but also for transportation to be able to get to groceries or things like that.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah. If there's someone listening right now, and they are interested in being a volunteer or just trying to figure out ways that they can be uh, involved with the Capital Trail Foundation, how can you link them or point them in the right direction?
yeah. Well, first, come check out our website, virginiacapitaltrail.org. We love our volunteers. As I mentioned earlier, we're a small staff team and we rely on volunteers to help us in a lot of different ways. So if you wanted to, you could come volunteer at one of our events, so our Cap to Cap bike ride, our pop-up rest stops, or, our run in the fall. There's also other fun ways to volunteer. So we do trail cleanups throughout the year. It's mostly the cleanups. You'd be surprised. A lot of the trash is from cars. And if you follow the trail, it follows Route 5, which is a scenic byway. And so we do cleanups. We have a great program called our Trail Ambassador Program. We do trainings throughout the year. So people think all I do is bike the trail every day, and that's my job as the executive director. It's funny, I do go out on the trail, but I often am in meetings or talking about things about the trail. So our trail ambassadors are out there every day giving us reports about what's happening out on the trail. Hey, trail looks great. Hey, I met someone from DC today and I fixed their flat. Or hey, I saw that there's some gravel that washed up from the rain that happened. We wanted to let you know. And so those folks let us know about what's happening out on the trail, but then also as ambassadors to folks who are using the trail so they can help fix our flat when we're out there or let us know where the nearest bathroom or water is. And so check out our website. There's a volunteer link that you can sign up to volunteer. And I highly recommend folks also sign up for our newsletter. It's a monthly newsletter, and it's a wonderful way to hear about updates that are happening on the trail, our events, our programs, and just kind of get connected. And so again, our website's the best way to do that.
What advice would you give to other communities who want to create their own type of trail?
Yeah. So yeah, that's a great question. So the story of the Capitol Trail getting built, I don't know if it's okay. I'd love to
Yeah,
share
go ahead,
that and
please.
kind of how it started. And
Yeah.
so my first recommendation is you need to find someone of influence to help get it built. And so someone who can get things done. And so for us, that was Whit Clement. So Whit Clement was the Secretary of Transportation in Virginia, and so he saw the importance of trails. And so from Danville, and from what I understood was there had been a feasibility study done of the Capitol Trail. Feasibilities. What happens with feasibility studies? Sometimes they get on a shelf and then there's some dust that happens, but he found this feasibility study and he talked to Jimmy Carr, who is Delegate Betsy Carr's son, and said, go find me some money. How can we find some money? And so he found the first 10 million for the Capitol Trail through something called the Open Container Law in Virginia. And so the Open Container Law is, so technically, I don't recommend this to your users, but technically you can have your passengers can have an open container of alcohol in your car. Don't do it. Please don't do it. But you technically can. And federally, that's a no-no. And so, because of that, a percentage of Virginia's transportation budget has to go towards things like safety or things like trails. And so that's where the first 10 million came from. Because Witt was so smart, he got us the first pot of money. He also started the Capitol Trail Foundation because he knew we needed to have a grassroots advocacy group to ensure that a governor wouldn't come in and stop these trails getting built. And so my advice for folks would be to find someone who is passionate and who has of influence to get your trail started. Get you get these grassroots advocates to say, "Hey, yes, I want this in my neighborhood. I want this trail to get built." And then the hardest part is the money. Trails are really expensive to get built. Our trail was built. It cost 72 million for our trail to get built, which is kind of a bargain now, as many things are more expensive. And so I would highly recommend, working with folks to, either build a nonprofit or get folks together to advocate locally to get your trail built. So that would be just a few things I would recommend.
Wow. So 70, I didn't, that was my next question. You said that's a bargain these days, right?
Yeah, 72 million for our 52-mile trail. And nowadays it can be anywhere from, I mean, it can be less than five, but 5 to 7 million per mile is really what we're seeing now.
Right.
It can be a little less depending on right-of-way acquisition. The one thing that was really um, nice about us, we did have some right-of-way acquisition, but most of the trail was VDOT right-of-way, which so that made things a little easier. They didn't have to do as much acquisition of land.
What's your big vision? 5, 10 year plan for the trail?
Yeah, so one big thing that we really want to see is to expand the trail to Colonial Williamsburg. And so right now the trail ends at the settlement, and which is great. There's Billsburg, there's a settlement, but I think it could go even more closer to the heart of Williamsburg. And Colonial Williamsburg is such a big tourist spot. There's also restaurants and hotels, and so at the minimum, we'd love to see that. And then as the fall line's getting built, we want to connect to the fall line as well. So just imagine, that you were able to connect to the fall line, which I think the goal is for the trail to be done. Ooh, maybe in 5 to 10 years, I think is the goal. And so be able to connect to another 43, 45 mile trail. Um, so that trail network is really important to us to see that. And then, of course, the user experience along our trail. We want to make sure that people feel like there are places to park, there's shade, there's, economic development, so that people can utilize our trail. So but my big vision for Virginia, 5 to 10 years probably isn't, maybe just say 20 or 30, is for trails to be able to really travel throughout Virginia using protected bike infrastructure.
Yeah. If the Capitol Trail had a theme song, what would it be?
It's so funny. Gosh. Well, I have young children, so the first thing I was going to say, the wheels on the bike, the wheels on the bike go round and round.
Yeah.
That's because I have young babies, and so just a song that's very happy, and because that's like I don't know about you, but like when I bike from my home to the trail often, and I'm like just stressed out, and then as soon as I get to the trail, I just feel this sense of release and happy. So
Yeah.
a very happy song, I would say. But the wheels on the bus or really wheels on the bike would be one that I could think
Yeah.
of just off the top of my head because that's what I sing often these days. So,
Look, you're organizing a dream bike ride with any three people living or from history. Who would you bike with?
oh, yeah, who would I bike with? That's a really interesting question. So, Um, let's see. So, hmm. So I think Gandhi would be a really interesting person to meet. And so I don't know if he knew how to ride a bike, but I think that would be just really interesting. And, that's been always someone I've been really interested in meeting. And so, that would be one. And so let's see, a couple other folks. Who would I want? You know, um, I have to just continue to say like Whit Clement, he is the father of the trail. And so I've never biked with him, but I think that he would have an amazing stories along the trail. And then, gosh, a third person from history. Um,
Or current?
or current, yeah, or current, I gotta pick like a celebrity, right? Like, um, someone who
I
would
mean,
in
maybe your partner wants to go with you. I don't know.
well, yeah, my husband, I always bike with him. That'd be too easy. But my kids, let's just say I haven't gotten them on bike or on the trail yet.
Mm,
So my two kiddos would be really fun. And
gotcha.
so we were doing tricycles yesterday on our sidewalk. So I'm training them.
Yep.
So
They're getting
I'm
ready
training
for
them.
it. Good.
Yeah.
Good. What's one thing that you have to pack for a long bike ride on the trail that some people might not expect?
Yeah, so there's our water, I think water, especially in July, August, and so there are spots along the Capitol Trail for water, but it can get really hot. Specifically, if you're in the middle of Charles City County, the shade is not always the best. There's these beautiful fields, they're either growing corn or cotton or different things, and so I would recommend a lot of water. And so that's at the minimum. I also think bring cash as well. Sometimes there are these little farm stands that you can find. And so that can be something you can kind of put some money in. Sunscreen, as always, helmet. And then, like you said earlier, a bike tube
Yeah.
for your bike. And so, we host our Cap to Cap bike ride, and folks want us to provide tubes for everyone. But bikes are very complicated,
Oh yeah.
and so there are so many different types of tubes. And so, bring a spare tube, even if you don't know how to change it, because folks, as you said, are very friendly
Yeah.
and can help change your tire. So that's what I often bring a tube or two. I have had friends pop both tires out on the trail,
I've
so
had to,
I
I've
highly
had
recommend
I've had my share of stories. I'm not the best with changing tires either. I'm not, but
that.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
at least do a better job of keeping tubes with me. Before we close, I'm interested in what's like the funniest or wildest thing you've ever heard um, that happened on a trail.
there was a bear on the trail. We
Yeah.
didn't post about it because it was somehow a bear came right in the Verina area near the trail. This was a few years ago. But there was a bear near the trail, so that was an interesting thing that happened. So that's one that's kind of a unique thing that I've seen.
Yeah.
Um,
It does it for me.
we, yeah, we've heard of people like kind of camping kind of close to people's private property. We don't encourage that, of course. Please go to the campsites along the trail. And
Hmm.
so sometimes we get reports of that. And so we encourage folks, of course, to go to campgrounds that are, the Chickahominy Riverfront Park or the Charles City County Campground. And so, but I think the bear was probably the most interesting one. Sometimes we'll see chickens along the trail. We don't know where they've come from, but
Yeah, I've seen
things
I've
like
seen
that.
goats.
Goats, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, you know, uh, if you go to in the Williamsburg area, if it's high enough water, there's almost like a stream that runs through the trail. And sometimes fish are crossing the trail. You'll actually see little fish, and so it's just because it's so close to a stream.
Yeah,
So that's kind of interesting. You'll literally see fish
that's
crossing
funny.
crossing the
That's
trail.
funny.
So those are a couple things, but I mean, we have a million trail counts a year. There's so many things that happen out on there. So
Yeah. Okay, this has been a pleasure. I'm personally just excited to meet the person who's behind it, and I tag you guys on my bike page. I got a bike page I do, so they always reshare, and the person who's on that page is very engaging. I broke down on the trail and had to I messaged the IG account, say, hey, do you have any suggestions for this, that? So it's always been really helpful for me. I'm a big
awesome.
fan and supporter of the trail, and I will definitely be at the Cap to Cap on the 10th. I know it's the
Great.
9th and the 10th. I'll probably be out there Saturday.
Great.
Thank you so much for being a guest on the show. And ever who reached out, I forget the person's name, but thank them for
Cindy.
me because this was enjoyable.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'll see you on the 10th. And then folks, please come out to our trail. If you have any questions, just let us know. Thanks so much.
Sounds good. This is Randy Wilson Podcast. You can find this podcast everywhere podcasts are played, but go over to YouTube if you want to see it. Also, you can learn more about the Randy Wilson Podcast at randywilsonpodcast.com. And you can follow me on Instagram, where we will be putting out several of the clips from this episode just to kind of get your attention so you can go over and check out the full episode. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we're out.